going on in United States and elsewhere in the West. Do you see a fear that this medicalization could also abuse some parts of it for making people more appropriate to the moral standpoint of the majority?
Well, this is a large subject.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And in a number of countries, things are happening in the field of drug addiction or the public policies on drug addiction and psychiatry that are really, not going in the right direction, that are going badly. And in my own country, I was also very, how do you say that, sorry that the way policies have developed in this subject, that forced treatment and treatment between brackets of criminal drug addicts, which was really unthinkable until 10, 15 years ago, is now part of the normal policies here, and it simply means locking people up for very long on relatively small misdemeanors or felonies. I don't know what it is mostly, but at least much larger punishments of longer incarcerations than they would have gotten otherwise to keep them from the street. And that is accepted because in the centers of the cities it is makes things a little bit more quiet. But the point is that incarceration or forced treatment may only be applied, at least in Holland, that is the official text, and I think elsewhere as well, can only be done as a last resort, ultimum remedium, ultimum remedium in Latin, as a last resort. Well, and it simply is not the last resort because these people have not had the opportunity to buy their drugs in a normal way or to get them prescribed from a doctor. Only a small percentage of them gets heroin from the doctor on prescription, but the people whose problem is more with cocaine or with combinations of drugs, mostly, or no, all everywhere, they're not being prescribed the drugs that they are addicted to, but then they're put in jail for forced treatment, and when they come out, the results are really bad. That large groups of them are going back to the same life they had before, and they're liable to be put in jail again for a long term.
Okay, Mr. Polak, thank you very much.
Yeah. Maybe about SAS a word again, or is that too late now?
No. I would appreciate.
I would say that Thomas Szasz is, of course, an interesting and important psychiatrist. He has had a large influence, but we must distinguish then between what he says about the drugs and the drugs issue in this famous book of him,
Ritual.
What now I don't know the name again.
I think it's the Chemical Rituals or something like that. I'll check it out.
That book, and a number of other texts that he wrote about it, and what he wrote about schizophrenia. His view that schizophrenia is not really a psychiatric illness, but is simply another, point of view or another way of experiencing the world or whatever, and that this is not in the field, should not be a matter for psychiatrists. I must say, I don't adhere to that view, and I always doubted it, and in psychiatry in general, that part of his teachings is really seen as, that's past. That's no longer the way we see it. Psychiatry is seen, even if it's still not clear how exactly you must see if it is one disease or that the concept of psychiatry as it is now is simply not the right concept, that it is a mixture of different disturbances, and that in the future that will be sorted out, that we will get a clearer picture of one sort of schizophrenia and another that will probably have another name then, and that because it's all seen together now as one condition, that's then also the reason why we can't get any further with it, because it is not really one condition. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a serious psychiatric disorder or a group of disorders.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, what SAS says about
Drugs.
drug use and the government's way of managing drugs and drug users, that is, I think, is totally right and deserves to be spread and repeated as often as possible. I know the name now. It is chemistry, ceremonial chemistry.
Ceremonial chemistry,
That's the name of the book, and it's a beautiful title, ceremonial chemistry. He also wrote a very important, short article, but I don't know where, about suicide, the link between the fear of suicide and drug policy, that many governments especially don't want drugs that can be used for suicide freely available. The idea then is that many people would commit suicide in a rush or without really having thought about it long enough. You know, that is it is a possibility, but that is one of the things that is behind that's one of the reasons why drugs that can be used for suicide are not freely available, and not and even not on prescription often. But he combines this with the fear of giving grown-up people free access to the psychoactive drugs that we are talking about now, the illegal drugs. That it is the same fears that are behind this. That's also an interesting article by Thomas Sass.